I want to say a few words regarding the recent push for mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations happening here in our state, in cities across our country, and in countries around the world. Here in the United States of America, we now have vaccine passport requirements in New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, Minneapolis, St. Paul, New Orleans, and Washington, D.C. In Los Angeles, which is where I was born, people are now required to show full proof of vaccination in order to go to bars, cafes, restaurants, the gym, sports games, concerts, movie theaters, museums, barber shops, hair salons, and the list goes on. As I've said before, the issue of mandatory vaccination has little to do with being pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine. At its core, this is about bodily autonomy and informed consent. Who gets to decide what goes into your body? Is it you?
Yes.
Do you get to decide what goes into your body?
Yes.
Is it your body, your choice?
Yes.
Or do corporations get to decide what goes into your body?
No.
Does the government get to decide what you have to inject into your body in order for you to have the same rights as others? This is, in essence, a human rights issue. And if people are discriminated against because of their vaccination status, then it's a civil rights issue as well. It should go without saying that mandated medicine has no place in a free country. There is no more basic liberty than the freedom to choose what goes inside our own bodies. And if we lose that, then we are no longer a free people. We will have to get booster shot after booster shot, year after year, and we will not be able to say no without losing our jobs, being denied an education, and being treated like a second-class citizen. Originally, we were told to get 1 or 2 doses of a COVID vaccine to put an end to the pandemic. The vast majority of citizens complied. 76% of our population has received 1 or more doses of a COVID-19 vaccine. Nevertheless, today, we currently have the highest number of COVID-19 cases we have ever had throughout the entire pandemic. And for the record, this is not a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Data out of the UK shows that triple vaccinated people ages 18 and older have higher rates of COVID-19 compared to unvaccinated people. Data out of Ontario, Canada has shown the same thing. Fully vaccinated people had higher rates of COVID-19 compared to people who are unvaccinated. It should be clear to everyone now that COVID-19 vaccines do not stop infection. They don't stop transmission, and they don't stop the spread of COVID-19. So given that, how in the world does it make sense to mandate COVID-19 vaccines and institute vaccine passports? And the answer to that question, some of you have just said, is that it certainly makes sense for the pharmaceutical industry to want vaccine mandates and vaccine passports because they are in the business of maximizing profits for their shareholders. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that the CEO of Pfizer has said that a fourth dose of the COVID vaccine will be needed. Israel has already begun to roll out that fourth dose to its people. Furthermore, the CEO of BioNTech, which is partnered with Pfizer to make the COVID-19 vaccines, has said that the Omicron variant vaccine will be a 3-dose vaccination series. And that Omicron variant vaccine will be out in a couple months from now. Meanwhile, the Netherlands has already announced that they plan to roll out 6 doses of COVID vaccine by next year. So 3 doses for the original COVID vaccine plus 3 more doses for the Omicron variant vaccine equals 6 doses of COVID-19 vaccine. Now, if your employer has vaccine mandates, or if you live in a city with vaccine passports, how many booster shots are you willing to get?
0. 0.
The pharmaceutical industry, infamously known as Big Pharma, is the least trusted industry in the United States. And not without good reason. Pfizer, for example, has a long history of fraud, corruption, and criminal behavior. In 2009, Pfizer paid a $2.3 billion fine, which at the time was the largest healthcare fraud settlement and criminal fine in the history of our country. The second least trusted entity in the United States is the federal government. And what we have now is Big Pharma working in collusion with the government to mandate a liability-free pharmaceutical product upon the masses. So it shouldn't come as a surprise then that the CDC has effectively changed the definition of what it means to be fully vaccinated. Now, people need to get their COVID booster shot every 5 months in order to be considered up to date on their vaccinations. In line with the CDC's new guidance, Oregon State University, Willamette University, University of Oregon, University of Portland, and Lewis and Clark College have all mandated COVID vaccine booster shots for students to attend school. Here in Oregon, they are currently working on the infrastructure needed to authenticate vaccine passports with QR codes. The Oregon Health Authority plans to roll out digital vaccine passports in March of this year. We need to understand that vaccine passports and mandated medicine set a grave and dangerous precedent, not only for ourselves, but so also for our children and grandchildren who come after us. Do not let Big Pharma use vaccine passports to turn us into pincushions for pharmaceutical profits. The last thing I want to say is that we need to elect better leaders into our government. If you value medical freedom, I encourage you to look up a gentleman named Mark Thielman who's running for Oregon governor. I truly believe Mark is the strongest gubernatorial candidate in Oregon for medical freedom. You can find out more about Mark and his campaign at markfororegon.com. I want to thank you all for being here. I love you guys. God bless.